Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pisces Guide to Pop Culture. I'm, of course, your host, TJ West, coming to you with a special Mother's Day episode. So, today I wanted to talk a little bit, obviously, about mothers and families and romance. And I don't mean that in an incestuous way. I mean that in the importance of having family narratives enmeshed within romance, but also having a supportive family ecosystem to help you sort of get through the nuts and bolts and the stresses and trials of being a writer. You know, it's a common idea that being a writer is a very lonely profession, and that is true to a degree. But I will say, as I think many writers will agree, that we could not be who we are, we could not do what we do without mothers and without our families. Now, I'm very fortunate that my mother is a very welcoming, kind, and loving person. A bit stern sometimes, a bit, rough around the edges, as one might expect from, a country person, born in the 50s in Appalachia. But she has been an enormous source of strength to me as a young queer person and as a middle-aged queer person is what I am now. And I could not be writing the queer romances that I do without knowing that I have that fantastic mother figure. And, obviously, it hasn't always been easy. We've had a tense relationship. My mom and I are very similar to each other, which can lead to some fraught discussions at times, certainly when I was younger and a little more hot-headed. But, to bring this back to sort of why wanted to talk about this in the context of romance is that I think queer people, as a rule, and up until recently, have sort of had to make their own families very often. Like the notion of found family is very important to queer people, and it certainly has taken shape within queer romance. If you read a lot of queer romance, you see a lot of found families of queer protagonists sort of bonding with people who aren't their biological family. But in my book, Country Road Romance, which, of course, I'm never going to miss an opportunity to advertise this book, which is, of course, coming out in June. Once again, Country Road Romance, available on Amazon and also at Barnes & Noble, where I'll be doing a book signing here in Salisbury on June the 14th at the local Barnes & Noble here, just to let you know. But anyway, if you want to order it, please do. It's a great book. I love it. Very proud of it. So in the book, as you'll know if you've watched these videos before, we're dealing with Jared, the struggling writer living in West Virginia, and Charlie Garrett, the expat who lives in Hollywood, has cultivated this career as a film star, TV movie star. But they both have, relationships with their parents. Charlie's is a little bit more fraught with his mother than Jared's is with his parents. But, the whole thing that sets the whole plot in motion is going to Jared's parents' house for the weekend. And, Jared's parents, Joyce and Doug, are these really wonderful, down-to-earth people who love their gay son and are very welcoming and warm and love Charlie, too. And a key part of that is, them bonding with this, big-time Hollywood person who comes back into their orbit, despite they have no idea this is going to happen. And so, Joyce is a little bit like my mother in the sense that she's a compulsive cleaner, doesn't want anything out of place. But I wanted to do a little bit of an homage to the importance of my mom to my life and to me as a queer person. She has been in my corner through thick and thin, and it means so much to me, and I wanted to take Country Road Romance, in the context of the romance, but also to sort of talk about family and how, for me, it has meant the world that I have that kind of nuclear family that I don't have to, run from, that has actually been a sort of foundational part of my life. I couldn't be doing what I do as a queer writer of romance and just a queer writer and a queer person in general without them. And so when I wrote Joyce and Doug, I gave them some characteristics of my parents, but enough to make that they're not directly like my parents. And so, I wanted to show people that it is possible to have loving birth family too, that they have an importance for those of us who are queer as well. Found family is vital, and I not want to diminish that, but I just wanted to give a shout out in my work, in my creative work, to the family members who have meant so much to me. And so I'm going to close by taking a little detour into grandmothers, because my grandma passed away back in 2020, but I also took the opportunity to give her a sort of shout out in the book too, in the figure of Marla, Jared's grandmother, who comes by for dinner to meet the big time Mr. Hollywood. And it's clear that she knows that Jared is gay, but she doesn't say it out loud. And that's something that was very true of my own grandmother, who I never explicitly came out to. But, I lived with men. I had, exclusively male partners. throughout most of my adult life. So, it was clear that she knew it, but like many people from this, the greatest generation, she didn't really want to talk about it. We didn't really explicitly bring it up, but she was always welcoming and loving to me and to my partners. And so, even though she's gone and has been for, these past 5 years, I wanted to take Country Road Romance and sort of show that there are many different ways that parental and grandparental figures can be in our lives. They may not be perfect and they may not be exactly what we would like, but they mean a lot to us anyway. And I think that for people from Appalachia, that gains an extra value just because of the sort of insularity of Appalachia in general, West Virginia in particular. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to ever completely divorce yourself from your family. And like I said, I'm very fortunate that mine has been wonderful. And I just wanted to take this little episode of Pisces Guide to Pop Culture where we talk about feelings, and how fiction and nonfiction express our feelings. So I just wanted to take this very special Mother's Day chance to give a shout out to both my mom and my grandma, who were wonderful people and are wonderful people in the case of my mom, and have meant so much to me and have really influenced the shape that my queer Appalachian romance has taken. So once again, like I said, I don't mean to be shamelessly self-promotional, but you gotta do what you gotta do. It's an indie author. Country Road Romance on Amazon or on Barnes & Noble. Hopefully will be available other places directly soon. But if you want to give it a pre-order, I would greatly appreciate that. But if not, that's fine too. I can starve, it's fine. No, but seriously, thank you all for watching this video, sticking with me through this. I love sharing feelings. I love sharing the love of pop culture, my love of writing, my love of reading, movies, TV, all the things. So anyway, thank you again for joining me for a very special Mother's Day episode of the Pisces Guide to Pop Culture. I'm your host, TJ West, and that's it for today, and I will see you soon.